First and foremost, I would like to thank Conference Coordinating Committee for holding this conference to pay respect to the memory of prominent leader Dr. Abdurrahman Ghassemlou, who was brutally assassinated by the Iranian agents in Austria. Resources and time has prevented me from being there in person, but I am glad to have been given this opportunity to share this event with you through a pre-recorded video. I hope to contribute some useful points for further discussion. Distinguished guests, due to the fact that you're enjoying the expertise of Miss Carol Prunhober and her extensive knowledge of the life and untimely murder of Dr. Abdurrahman Ghassemlou, I have chosen to skip biographical summary and have omitted retelling the horrific events of July 13, 1989. Instead, I am going to focus on legal issues relevant to his assassination. This topic is also applicable to other gross human rights crimes committed by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Dr. Ghassemlou was assassinated before he could achieve his political goals. He believed in nonviolence, human rights, and the advancement of all oppressed nations in Iran. His timely absence and subsequent leadership vacuum was followed by a brutal campaign by the Iranian government. History has shown that his murder took the Kurdish people back many steps. The democratic process and the goal of autonomy also fell back. Dr. Ghassemlou accepted the proposed negotiations without demanding conditions. He even compromised his preferred meeting place, which was Paris, to Vienna. He did not suspect the Iranian agents for their choice of country. In fact, Dr. Ghassemlou and his fellow attended the negotiations without taking any security precautions. He was executed while planning for a peaceful solution to securing Kurdish rights in Iran. Perhaps his willingness to meet the Iranian agents under such suspicious and unsafe conditions stems from his trust in the goodness of all people and his conviction that there is a hope in diplomacy. He was so pure in his belief that human beings could come face to face and negotiate rather than fight that he was blinded to the brutality and faithlessness of the Iranian government. He wanted a peaceful solution to the Kurdish suffering, so much that he jeopardized his own safety. He was ahead of his time and ahead of most traditional leaders in the region. He had a democratic and humanistic vision, and this perhaps made him vulnerable to the cold-blooded acts of the Iranian government. There is no way to know where Kurdish people would be if he was not killed, how much further ahead or how much more free we would have been. But it is clear that his spirit is alive in every human being who advocates for human rights and dignity. Part 1. Signed but ignored. Meaningless signatures and non-adherence. The Islamic Republic of Iran, not a signatory to the most important UN conventions, including the non-binding declaration known as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Prior to the 1979 revolution, Iran had ratified several important treaties, but since then, according to the Geneva Academy of International Humanitarian Law and Human Rights, Iran has only ratified 5 international humanitarian law and human rights treaties. In addition, it has made significant reservation to a number of them. For example, according to official documents, the Islamic Republic of Iran has included the following reservation before ratifying binding documents. The government of the Islamic Republic of Iran reserves the right not to apply any provision or articles of the convention that are incompatible with Islamic laws and the international legislation in effect. Records of atrocity taking place in Iran under the name of Islamic law in proof that the above statement simply means that the Islamic Republic of Iran can choose not to abide by international laws when convenient and as they see fit. In 1982, the Iranian representative to the United Nations, Said Rajai Khorasani, said that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was a secular understanding of the Judeo-Christian tradition, which could not be implemented by Muslims without transpassing the Islamic law. It is safe then to argue that this statement basically means that the current leadership in Iran considers international treaties signed prior to the revolution null. And since the international legal system has the state at its center, the state ratifies treaties and thereby obliges itself to respect, protect, and fulfill certain human rights. And it is the state that must report on its own implementation and who can be named and shamed in public for not doing so. Treaties specify mechanism for how the international community can hold the state to account, frequently through exerting pressure from above, and therefore such a mechanism can be very powerful. However, they can also become overly politicized at the United Nations or regional fora. It is the challenge of campaigners and the courts to place this power in the hands of those whose rights have been violated by the state. What is the solution? Simply put, international conventions signed, ratified, or abstained have little practical value when the state chooses not to abide by this international mechanism. What is the solution then? How are international laws enforced and by whom? Does this mean that the IRI can continue to carry out atrocities, crimes in impunity? Part 2. Conviction in the face of limitation. There are some possible international institutions that Kurds can and should appeal to in order to achieve the goal of justice for Ghassemlou's execution and other such criminal acts. Even if a tangible resolution is not found, a trial is necessary to prevent these crimes from being committed in obscurity. Despite the statute of limitations for retroactive wrongs and the shortcoming of international jurisdiction in prosecuting extrajudicial assassinations, it is important to note that if argued effectively, human rights standards and international common law can be used to seek legal retribution. Theoretically and philosophically, the limits of international law are enormous. In practically, geopolitical interests, economic ties, and strategic alliances make reaching justice difficult, if not outright impossible. With what in mind, it is incredibly important for the Kurdish leadership, scholars, advocates, activists, lawmakers, researchers, and students to persistently pursue, push, and demand legal avenues for investigating, documenting, and prosecuting those responsible for the murder of Dr. Ghassemlou. Possible avenues for international legal action. Many Kurdish people have wondered if the crimes committed by the Islamic Republic of Iran can be prosecuted by the highest courts of international law. I have tried to explore this idea while being mindful of the challenges posed by these international bodies. The ICC, which as International Criminal Court began to operate in 2002 and has a mandate to try cases involving war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Unfortunately, at the moment, extrajudicial assassinations or state sanctioned targeted attacks are not categorized as war crimes, crimes against humanity, and or genocide. Advocates must argue that Dr. Ghassemlou's assassination, in addition to the hundreds of other murder, executions, disappearances, rapes, discriminations, and violations, are part of a systematic, deliberate, planned, and premeditated campaign against the Kurdish population. According to the ICC, crimes against humanity encompass serious attacks on human dignity, or a grave humanitarian or degradation of human being. The Rome Statute requires that these should be committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against any civilian population with knowledge of the attack. The Islamic Republic of Iran can always claim that they did not have knowledge of the attack and were unaware that they were contributing to a widespread or systematic crime. A body of evidence such as eyewitness accounts, expert testimony, and documents presented by Amnesty International and other credible organizations would need to prove that the state is actually intending to commit crimes against humanity. The ICC is a last resort and created to prosecute the most serious of crimes. Therefore, it doesn't oversee individual cases of repression, no matter how consequential. This is not simply a burden faced by Kurds, but rather all dissident from Iran. Organizations such as the Abdurrahman Bruman Foundation are trying to document the 1980 massacre of political prisoners as the Islamic Republic of Iran's crime against humanity. Dr. Abdul Karim